Good morning, everyone, and many thanks to the BVRLA for inviting me to contribute to this video today. It's a pleasure to speak to such an influential body within the UK motor industry. Fleets and leasing companies have long been a force for innovation, potent players within the market which have used that influence in many beneficial ways to make vehicles safer, for example, more reliable and more efficient. All changes that the fleet industry urge manufacturers to focus on. Now, as we stand on the verge of a green motoring revolution, you are once again at the forefront of that change, helping shape the growth of zero-emission vehicles. Now, for decades, we've been talking about phasing out fossil fuels in motoring, but now it's actually happening. As we saw with the latest figures last month, when for the first time, low-emission and hybrid vehicles actually outsold diesels. And your industry is pivotal in that transformation. In fact, this country has led the way in delivering clean growth. Between 1990 and 2018, our economy grew by 3/4, whilst emissions fell by 43%. That's faster than any other G7 nation. And in 2019, we legislated to end our contribution to global warming by 2050 to reach net zero emissions, becoming the first major economy in the world to do so. But getting there, well, that's going to be tough. We may have cut carbon significantly over the past 30 years, but transport is still the largest emitter of greenhouse gases across our economy, contributing 28% of UK domestic emissions in 2018. That means to meet our net zero objectives, we need to go further, faster than we've ever done so far in decarbonising transport. So throughout 2020, we've been working on a new overarching transport decarbonisation plan, which we expect to publish at the end of the year. This will set out the path we'll take to deliver our net zero objectives, together with our partners right across the industry. Already, around 700 of those partners have provided feedback, including, of course, the BVRLA. Businesses, trade associations, academics, local authorities, scientists, researchers, environmental groups, all providing critical input as we develop the first ever comprehensive action plan for decarbonising transport. And of course, road transport is central to the plan, with one of our six main priorities, in fact. Now, before COVID struck, we were already delivering a £2.5 billion programme to tackle road transport emissions, with substantial grants available for plug-in vehicles, and a major electric vehicle infrastructure programme already underway. But we've worked throughout the year to make sure we maintain momentum despite COVID. We've consulted on bringing forward the date when we end the sale of new petrol and diesel cars and vans from 2040 to 2035 or earlier if we can complete the transition. And we've included for the first time the phase out of hybrids within that consultation. Now, as part of that consultation, we ask for your views on the package of support required to enable the transition to take place and how to minimise any impact on businesses and consumers across the UK. The consultation ended on the 31st of July 2020, and we're considering the responses now. The views of the fleet and leasing sector are, of course, of critical importance. No one has greater insight into the current generation of electric vehicles and how the market is developing, or the challenges involved in bringing forward a transition date than you. Now, since fleets and leasing companies buy over 50% of new vehicles in the UK each year, which they then cascade into the second-hand market, they are fundamental to helping the transition to cleaner road vehicles. And I welcome the launch today of the BVRLA's latest plug-in pledge, the next stage in your move to fully decarbonise. It's fantastic that so many BVRLA members are making commitments to introduce zero-emission fleets ahead of the government's phase-out targets. Not only is that boosting sales today, of course, it's also increasing the number of zero-carbon vehicles that are appearing on our roads, and it's helping to promote their use by new buyers. Plus, of course, it feeds into our work in government too. Now, our budget in March included £1 billion additional funding to help accelerate the transition to zero-emission vehicles. This included over £530 million to keep plug-in vehicles, the plug-in grant in place for another 3 years. It included the extension of favourable benefits in kind tax rates for zero-emission vehicles out to 2025, and an additional £500 million over the next 5 years to support the further rollout of infrastructure for electric vehicles. As a further encouragement to drivers to make the switch to zero-emission vehicles, earlier this year, we also announced that green number plates for electric vehicles are set to be introduced across the UK from as early as this autumn. Now, these plates will make it easier for cars to be visually identified as being zero-emission. And that means it helps local authorities design and put in place new policies such as zero-emission zones to incentivize people to own and drive them. We're also increasing awareness in many other ways as well. We've published an ambitious vision for rapid charging infrastructure along strategic roads in England over the next decade. This sets out the number of rapid charge points that will be located across motorways and major roads to meet future demand, supported by a rapid charging fund. As an EV driver myself, I know that it's vital that EV drivers can have confidence in the public charging network. That's why we're going to consult on regulating to improve the driver experience of use of electric vehicle charge points, to make it easy and hassle-free as it can possibly be. And we look forward to engaging with BVRLA members as part of that process. So, to sum up, although 2020 has been an immensely challenging year for the automotive and fleet industries, and those challenging times, I'm afraid, are not over yet, I am hugely optimistic about the future for green fleets in this country. Cutting-edge technologies and cutting-edge businesses working with government to achieve something really remarkable, transforming motoring into an environmental trailblazer within a generation after well over a century of dependence on fossil fuels. So thank you for what you're already doing and what you're doing here today as well. Thank you for renewing your electric vehicle pledge to get us where we need to be tomorrow. And then we can set our sights on the final objective, to create a world where no more plug-in pledges are needed, and where zero-emission cars are simply called cars. That's the world we're looking to create, and together we'll get there. Thank you.